All right, there we go. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to focus. It's been a crazy afternoon. I appreciate each and every one of you being here this afternoon. How y'all doing? Yeah? What? I thought you guys would still be singing. Did you already sing? No. Oh, you haven't sung? Oh, okay. Hey, Victoria, how you doing?
I got everybody uncomfortable by setting the front board. Yeah, I'm used to the front row.
Hey, I love it. I really appreciate it. The closer you sit, the more I feel like we're together, right? And instead of me like yelling at you. I found Carl and Junior walking way down 12 Mile just now. Except they were walking the wrong direction. I didn't understand. But they made the right choice. They came back with me. Appreciate it. Did you have the water? Did you find it, Carl? Get some water? Carl? Yes? Okay, yes. See? I like interaction. Okay. So, can we talk about the Christian life tonight? Last week, we got up on stage. The people I asked to get up on stage, hey, if you call yourself a Christian, you've made that decision, that commitment, I want you to come out. Now, I didn't do that to make people feel like they weren't part of the group or the clique, if you will. Okay, I didn't do it for that purpose. But sometimes Jesus calls us to step over the line to make a commitment, to let it be known. Now, one day, there is going to be a line, and Jesus is going to separate people, those who are his followers and those who have rejected or rebelled against God. So that was maybe a taste, but I love to hear the prayers we heard last Sunday. And really precious. And I loved the prayers we're praying for each other and those who are not able to get up on stage. That was really precious to me. But I want to warn you all this evening. I want to warn you about something. I want to tell you how life works, not only just how life, but the Christian life works. But what I'm going to say is actually not just true about the Christian life, it's true for life in general. And you may not have discovered this yet. How many of you like pain? How many of you like comfort? How many of you like it a perfect 72 degrees? I love 72 degrees. Yeah, me too, yeah. I don't know what it is. You guys notice this? In the winter, it's got to be hot in my house. But in the summer, I like it freezing. So why is it in the winter I hate it when it's freezing, but in the summer I love it when it's freezing in the house? I don't understand. We're going to look at, I want to pick up part of where I left off this morning in the book of 1 Peter. And I just want to point out a few principles that I really think will help you all to know how some important things in life. Now, here's what I see in Michigan culture. Some of the things in Michigan culture are easier for me to see because I'm not from Michigan. So if you came to the culture I grew up in, you might point out some things to me that are invisible to me, okay? But here's what I see a lot of in general. I see workaholics, and I see deadbeats. And it seems like you get one or the other. And I'm not saying that for everybody, certainly not. That would be a generalization and a logical fallacy. But I see oftentimes in this culture those extremes. I see people, as far as the workaholics, they'll get mad at the alcoholic for driving drunk, but then they will risk life and limb to get to work on time, even though they got to drive 3 hours through ice to get there. Risk their life to get there. And then I see deadbeats who kind of just given up on life. They just kind of checked out. Maybe they've had some pain in their life, whatever, but they're just trying to escape full time. That's their full-time job, escape. What's wrong with both of those? If I had to choose, go ahead, Luke. It is extreme. Should life be balanced? Now, I have a tendency in my personality to be extreme. Either all in or all out. I've had to learn to be balanced. But, Carl and I were just talking about going to the gym earlier, just a moment ago. And for those of you who don't go to the gym, the 300 pounds on the bench press, you guys know what a bench press is? It's where you're laying flat and you push the bar up, okay? Hence the term bench, because you're on a bench. Matthew knows what I'm talking about. So the idea, 300 pounds is kind of a awesome benchmark, if you will. Am I right, Matthew? Right? It's kind of like you say, hey, if you bench press 300 pounds one time with good form without your back arching off the bench, that's kind of like, okay, you're in the 300 club. Now, what's better than 300 is 315, because that means you get 345 plates on each side, and that just looks cool, right? Am I right, Matthew? So the first time you're going to the gym, you're not benching 315 pounds. I don't care who you are. Maybe the 0.01% can do that in life, but most of us, we're going to start out more like 135. In fact, we might start out at 95. In fact, we might start out at just the bar, 45. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. You got to start somewhere. And by the way, I'm on a commercial right now. You go to the gym and you see someone who's struggling, right? Don't make fun of them. Encourage them. I love it when someone has an issue, a struggle, and they're doing something about it. Right? We don't put people down. We build people up, don't we? But here's the thing. You're not going to walk into the gym the first time and bench press 315 pounds. Are you? Anybody here going to argue with that? Cliff is going to argue with that, aren't you? You're thinking, yeah, dude. Okay, it's really hard. But you can get there gradually over time. It's built up. So here's the idea. Here's how I do it. I'll do 5 or 6 sets of 12, right? And if I can do whatever weight I'm at, then guess what? The next chest workout, I'm bumping it up 5 pounds. And I may not be able to do that. Extra 5 pounds may make a difference. I may be able to do a few sets at 12, and maybe I do the next set of 10, and next set of 8, next set at 6. But guess what? I come back the next week, and I will have increased by 1 or 2 reps. You know what a rep is? That's one time. Okay? A set is a set of 1 times. Okay? Okay, most of us do. I don't know. Kids these days, no. But guess what? Each time, it's very rare I don't increase by at least 1 rep. Next thing you know, I'm again at 5 or 6 sets of 12, and guess what? I bump it up another 5 pounds. So over time, what happens? You get up to that weight you want to get at, right? And you feel strong. And you look back to the weight you used to be at, 45, 85, 95, 135, and you're like, amateurs, right? Can't believe no. But you used to be there. See, that's what it's like in the Christian life. And here's the thing. How does this happen in life? Not everyone is a beautiful person, unfortunately. Everybody has the potential to be a beautiful person. But the thing that keeps us from that very often in life is being selfish. Being selfish, living for self, doesn't lend itself to a beautiful life. Now, I said this Sunday morning a couple Sundays ago, but I don't think I said it at night, so I'm going to say it this way. I'm going to be 40 years old, so I've had a chance to see people's lives unfold over time, right? Y'all haven't had a chance to see this per se, have you? You're all so very young. I'm twice your age, most of you, okay? But because I'm 40, there's some things you get a perspective for growing older, and I've got a chance to see people's lives unfold, how it's turning out, what they're turning into, what they started at, what their goals were, and how it unfolds over time. I see people who progress and meet their goals, and I see people who turn back. But here's something I noticed recently on Facebook. I had a chance to go to New York and visit a good friend of mine who I care about deeply. He might come visit us sometime, and if he does, I'll introduce you. But the reason why I consider him a close friend is because he helped me out in my time of need in a pretty powerful way. And he's very generous to me back when I was, 22, something like that. So I got a chance to visit him and said, hey, I'll check out some of my other friends on Facebook now that I'm reminiscing, right? And so I took the time and I looked up a bunch of people that I used to, quote unquote, party with, okay? One guy's name was Claude. I always wanted to say Claude, but that's not how you pronounce it in Canadian, right? It's Claude, right? You guys agree with me? You guys are close to Canada. You better know this. Yeah, it's so close. Another guy's name was Christian. Cool name. Not a Christian, though, by any stretch. But here's what I noticed. I mean, back when I knew these guys, we were in our early 20s. And, the world was our oyster, as it were. You guys know what that means? Right? We was like, hey, we're going to conquer the world. We have all these things ahead of us. We have all this life, and we have all these dreams. We're going to do all these things. And we did do a lot of cool things. We had a lot of good times, a lot of wild adventures. But what I noticed to my shock, in some sense, was they're still doing the exact same things now that we were doing in our 20s. Of course, those guys I was looking at are a little older than me. They're like 5 years older than me. I was always the youngest. What? Partying? Well, all their pictures, it was just of them. Now, this may be cool when you're in your teens, and maybe in your 20s, but when you're getting in your 40s and you're still just doing selfies, you know what I mean? Like the cool picture is you dressed up like Obi-Wan Kenobi for a Halloween party. You know what I mean? Now that is sweet. We used to be all about costume parties. Yeah, but now that you're 40, it's like, dude, you're still doing that. Now, I'm not here to put those guys down. I care about those guys. But then, but all the pictures was, okay, here's me in Rome. Here's me at the beach. Here's me at the Halloween party. Here's me on the set of some Western movie, dressed up like a cowboy. And I'm like, what? That's all you... Now, maybe it's a shock to me because I've been out of that life for so long, but then I look at other people's Facebooks, and it's like the pictures they got, they're ministering to people. They're on mission and serving people. They're helping out in real and meaningful ways. Now, we talked about a few weeks ago about does your faith make a difference in the world? And I'm not trying to put those guys down. I'm just telling you my internal dialogue. I'm not trying to judge them, but I'm like, life's got to be about more than just that, doesn't it? It passes by so quickly. Can we do something meaningful and significant with our lives? So here's the thing. I say all that to say, here's how you're going to develop character. It's one thing to be selfish into yourself when you're teens, early 20s, but when you come to your 40 and you're still acting like a 20-year-old because it's all about you, is that attractive to anybody? Because guess what? As we get older, and if we've got an education, we have a career, we got a job, guess what we got? We got money. Finally. Now, some of you were raised in money. I wasn't. I was poor, didn't know it. Had a great time, but still I was poor. But guess what? When you get older, you start to get more money, and guess what? You have more opportunity to do some stuff, important stuff with that money, right? Instead of just saying, hey, I was spending all my money, on me when I was younger, but now I'm spending all my money in bigger ways on me. The idea of he who dies for the most experiences or the most toys wins. Is that meaningful and significant for you guys? Now, your generation, the millennial generation, is a little different that way than my generation, which is Generation X. You want to be part of something bigger than yourselves, generally. These are observations that anthropologists have made. How are you going to keep from being a selfish person by the time you hit my age? And I want to tell you about that this evening. You guys have any idea how it's going to happen? No? Diane. I'm deaf, a little louder. Community. Caring about others. Helping others. Carl, she's got a bottle of that water I was talking about. See that? What is it called? Boss? Okay, now I know the name of it. What? Yeah, it's really, really good. Sorry, maybe should have mentioned that. Now, recycle that bottle, right? That'd be cool. Where's my... Okay, here we go. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I didn't get a chance to review this before. You know what? I feel like the Bible. Okay, here we go. I want you to get this, right? How are you going to keep from being selfish? How are you going to have a beautiful life? 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12. Ready? Now, let me back up. So for those who weren't here this morning, First Peter was written, we think, in AD 62. Now, what's going to happen a few years down the road, just a few short years, is the Emperor Nero, the Caesar, Emperor Nero, is going to have a mass persecution of Christians. You guys heard of Nero? Nero was an impaler. He would take Christians, dip them in tar, stick a huge stake with them, and light up his parties by having burning Christians as torches, human torches, that would light up his parties. Roman Emperor, yeah. Now, he wanted to do reconstruction of Rome, so what did he do? He burned down the city and blamed it on Christians, and people hated the Christians, right? So Christians end up in that scenario being the scapegoats. So, under Emperor Nero, we believe the Apostle Paul was executed in Rome. Just before the Apostle Paul is executed, the Apostle Peter is executed. Peter knows this, he's on his way to execution. Now, he's going to write 2 Peter in just 1 or 2 years later, and then he says in his book, the Lord has told me my end is coming. Okay? Peter writes that, hey, we saw the glory of Jesus Christ revealed directly. What is it referring to? Matthew 17, the Mount of Transfiguration. They go up, Peter, James, and John. Jesus reveals his glory for a moment. He writes about this, and you don't, like I said this morning, I've hinted at this before, you don't write about seeing God directly, his glory revealed, saying that he's a public figure, that he died, he was buried, he rose again during the same time period of the events that happened, because guess what? People can check your facts. Peter is absolutely convinced of what he saw. Now, a lot of people say a lot of things, but how many people are willing to take a bullet for something? How many people are willing to lay down their life for something? And as I read that, I'm just like amazed. Peter is utterly convinced, and guess what? He's so convinced of it, he knows he's going to lay down his life. Doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter, does it? Because compared to the glory he knows is coming, laying down his life is nothing. So what Peter says again and again and again in the book of 1 Peter is that suffering's coming. And what's important is that you respond well to suffering. Now here I'm getting to my point. So I want to read to you a very important text. I want you to get this principle tonight, young people. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12. Dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trials, little irony there when he says fiery trials, based off what I just said about Nero, fiery trials you are going through as if something strange were happening to you. Instead, be very glad, for these trials make you partners with Christ in his suffering, so that you will have the wonderful joy of seeing his glory when it is revealed to all the world. Now, Peter's already said in the first chapter, verses 6 and 7, he says this. So be truly glad, there is a wonderful joy ahead, even though you have to endure many trials for a little while. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold. Through your faith, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. Why do we get so excited about a metal that's shiny? Right? Shiny metal. Ooh, I'll give you all my money for a piece of shiny, right? It has its benefits, but God, Peter's saying that your faith being tested is way more valuable. So when your faith remains strong through many trials, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. Now, if you turn back to Romans real quickly, Romans chapter 5, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials. You see, Paul just is saying again what Peter said. We can rejoice when problems come. How many of you like to rejoice when problems come? Now, you think to yourself right now, when problems come, what is your default response? Can you guys venture to be honest with me? Raise your hand and give me a couple examples what your default response is. Zach, what do you got? Luke, and then Alan, and then Jack. You what? Okay, sleep, Jack. Run. Me too, man. I've been there. Sleep is escape. Running is escape. Alan? Oh, you're awesome, huh? You're like the coolest person ever. Thank you. You can go home now. You're good. You're good. Cam? Hey, procrastination. That's a good thing, Cam. Thank you for the honesty. That's a good one. Rhiannon? Self-injury. The idea behind self-injury is, hey, we have this pain, we have this problem, I don't want to deal with this problem, so I'm going to distract myself by hurting myself. Okay? I got emotional pain, I'm going to distract myself from the emotional pain by giving myself physical pain. Anybody else? Portia? Ugh! None of you do that, do you? I'm the only one. I do. Me and Portia. Not like that? I scared you, didn't I? Sorry. Not really? How do you do it? Because sometimes anger is inward, sometimes anger is outward. How do you do it, Portia? Mm-hmm. Silent treatment? Passive aggressive? And you won't tell them? Does that help? And then what? Okay. You know what happened? You know what's happening there, people? Can I just say something about that? Because you're saying, I'm going to give you somewhat of a counter argument. I'm not trying to disagree with you, okay? But I want to give you maybe perhaps a little bit of insight into that, okay? Something to think about. Cool? Do we realize, young people, we can't maintain anger over time? Can you go, for 8 hours straight? Not unless you're Incredible Hulk and you keep getting provoked. Everybody got that except me. I don't know what that is. Good, you and me. So guess what? We cycle it, but we can't maintain that high emotion, and so we go back into another emotion. And now some people would call this doing the circle eights. Right? Because we go in one motion, we can't maintain it, so we go back into another motion like denial or running or blaming or sadness. So we oscillate perhaps from anger back to sadness, back to anger, back to sadness. But the question is, are we dealing with it? Because that's where we want to go now. And I'm not saying you're not, but I'm saying that can be the pattern because you can't maintain anger over time. So whereas you think you feel better, but it's what we call. You ready? Can I give you a new vocabulary term tonight? Young, all ready? Going to be 2 words. Each of them have multiple syllables. Brace yourselves. Don't get mad at me. What you can do this, have what's called an emotional catharsis. An emotional catharsis. Catharsis is a Greek word. It means cleansing. Purge. Thank you. Now, sometimes we say, we can do this in church. Hey, let's all get excited about Jesus. Yeah. Woo! Yay! And then you get out in the church parking lot, and it's like, you cut me off. Or you go down to the 7-Eleven, and someone steps in front of you to get their Slurpee, and you're like, what? I thought you were just in the spirit a second ago. No, you were just having emotional catharsis. Oh, right. How dare you? Even Jesus would be upset about this. No, probably not. Okay, give me some more. Give me some more. What else? Victoria, what do you got? Fighting? How are we coping? How do we deal with trials, with struggles, with problems, with issues? Now, fighting. Your sense of justice has been violated, right? And no one else cares, so you got to make it right. Vengeance. Justice. Vengeance, right? So, Anthony.
Can make up for it in other areas.
How? How so?
So, like, okay, man, I failed classes, wasted some money. That's all right. I'll just make up for it by, practicing the drums. If I'm good at drums, I don't need to be good at school.
So what is that really? What are we looking at there? You know what it sounds like to me? I could be wrong. It looks like escape. or denial. Right?
Yeah, I think
Distraction.
deflection's a good one.
Deflection. Alan, you're totally good. I'm not calling you anymore. You're ruining my whole night. That's good. Portia. By the way, I haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you back.
Yeah, of course.
Ladies, thank you for being here. Brittany, yes? The semester must be over. Praise the Lord, right? Portia, what else you got? Apathy. Yeah, and apathy can be contagious, y'all. Apathy can be contagious. That's honest. Alan, I'm not calling you. Tivo and then Cliff. What? Yeah. What? No. Shoot! Darn! How many of you here curse and swear and use the F word and take the Lord's name in vain when you're not at church? Honesty! Okay. How many of you use the F word and can I just use the Irish accent? What? Do you? Okay, so use the American version of the Irish word shite. Uh-oh, I just got fired. Okay, you do that. You do that. Oh, you? Oh, I can't believe it. Is this shocking? Now, of those who raised your hands, no, I don't actually. See, and I'll tell you why in probably a little bit. How many of you that raise your hands have parents that talk that way? Or used to for a long time growing up? Okay, a little bit. Raven? No? You like me? See, that's one of the reasons why I don't struggle with cursing now, because I wasn't raised in a home that cursed, right? You were allowed to? Now, Cliff.
I have taken away a lot of the cursing by being sarcastic.
Is that a good thing? Now, do you guys, sarcasm is another Greek word. What does sarcasm mean? Cutting of flesh. Sarx means flesh. Chasm, cut. Cutting flesh. Now, sarcasm a good thing? How many of you guys like your flesh cut? No. So here's the thing. If you guys want to quit cursing, one of the best strategies I can think of is replace the words that you don't want to say anymore with the word that is appropriate to say. It is a hard issue, but we're going to take baby steps. Victoria. Yeah. Hey guys, no crosstalk. Yeah, nice words. Well, get with your people and do a brainstorm session. And if necessary, get a dictionary. Because guess what? The thing that I don't like about cursing is be more expressive. Get a vocabulary. You can't use the same F word for 100 different things. I have no idea what you're meaning. Right? It is the most versatile word. But instead, get a dictionary app, and learn a new word every day. And put it in a sentence 3 times and make it yours. Okay? Okay, so we gave some examples. Victoria, last one. I gotta keep moving. Attitude? You throw up an attitude, right? Diane, last one, okay. Gossip, is that a sin? What? I'm sorry. I have no idea what she's saying. Sneak. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Sneak dissing, got it. You know how old I am. Now, here's the thing, young people. We all have these ways of dealing with issues. If I could break it down into two big categories, we either want to run or we want to blame. We want to run or we want to blame. And here's the thing. When problems come and trials happen, and they will, if we run from them, we miss out on an opportunity and a benefit. Diane. But I like the word hyperbolic because oftentimes we exaggerate the problem in our heads and we make it a way bigger deal instead of if we just had faced it. Now, when you face the struggles and the trials you have head on, and that might mean bringing it to prayer, being gentle, being trusting of the Lord, guess what? That is like going to the gym and doing a workout. A spiritual workout. When you face it. And that's what God wants to use all those trials in your life to make you a beautiful person. If you keep running from the problem, or if you handle the problem in a negative way, on a regular basis, by the time you're my age, 40 years old, all those opportunities are missed, and you won't have grown in character, let alone godliness. Alan.
One way that I used to grow up with anger, I would bottle it, and that was a big problem too. So I'd say it's not just like running away or dealing with it, but even bottling it is a problem for people because, you don't want to deal with the anger, you don't want to express it to anybody else, you just want to keep it inside. What happens is it festers and gets bigger and bigger, and you explode.
Yes. So people that bottle it up, what do they turn into? They are powder kegs, ticking time bombs. They get set up. They go from 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds, right? They go from I'm totally cool to Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde, right? Or David Banner to Incredible Hulk, whatever works for you. So, prayer, right? And you say no one's going to listen to me, no one understands me. Do you think God will understand? Do you think you can pray that thing out? Absolutely. So I'm telling you, part of life in the Christian life is handling your problems correctly. Now, Peter's going to talk about this time and again in 1 Peter. He's going to say something like this. When people speak evil against you, don't return evil for evil. Now, I'm hoping that you would agree that Gospel Nightlife is a safe, healthy environment. And I'm hoping you're going to agree with that because maybe there's things going on around here I don't know, but I'm going to tell you this. If you can't work it out with your Christian brothers and sisters, what are the chances of you being able to be gentle and not return evil for evil out there in the world? There's a sense in which this is a controlled, safe greenhouse environment that allows you to get practice, allows you to actually love. Yes, Diane. Yeah. Because it escalates. It escalates. Peter's going to say later, he's going to say, love covers a multitude of sins. Do you have to take everything offensive, young people? Offensively? Do you have to get offended by everything? I tell you what, you better not, because when you get in a marriage, you're going to learn it's just better just to say, hey, you know what, I love that person, bless their heart. They're having a bad day, doesn't mean you got to take it personal. Okay? Yes, Alan. I can't call on you anymore because I got to finish the sermon sometime.
Saying whenever you say bad, forgive and forget.
But can you just forget? You do want to forgive. And I want to say the ability to forgive and the ability to forget even is something supernatural. But if you're used to holding grudges and you get to the point where that's just how you are, because you are now becoming the person you will be. So you got to think about it, young people. What kind of person do you want to be? Because here's the thing. If you're practicing what I'm preaching tonight over a period of time, you get to my age, and guess what? The bigger trials of life comes. You or a close loved one is diagnosed with cancer. And guess what? You've built up the spiritual muscles to be able to handle that, to be able to go through it and suffer well. Now, here's the thing. One of our strongest apologetics or defenses for the Christian faith is how we handle problems. I'll say it again. One of the strongest defenses we have for the reality of Christianity is how Christians handle their problems. Peter says, be always ready to give an answer of the hope that is within you, in gentleness, in respect, NLT will say. So here's what I want to say. I just want to ask you a question, young people. When you, rhetorical question, answer to yourselves, if you find out some bad news, right? Can you guys each think of some bad news you've gotten recently? Or maybe in the last year or so? Can you guys think of some bad news? Yeah? Raise your hand if you got something pictured. I want to know if you're with me. Nathan? You got something pictured? You're dreaming about what you got pictured, aren't you? How'd you handle it? Now, think about how you handled it. And now, imagine that people are watching you. And they're there to decide if Christianity is real or not based off how you responded. Are they going to become Christians or not? Because how we handle our problems, if we're directing to the Lord, it should be that they should be able to look at us and say, where's this hope that you have? Your life is collapsing around you, and yet you are still at peace. Now, I mentioned this morning, what is the picture of that we have in the Gospels? There's a massive storm going on. The disciples think the ship is going to sink. What is Jesus doing? Luke. He's asleep. And he wakes up and says, why are you all so stressed out? Why so upset? And then he calms the storm, doesn't he? Jesus is able to have peace amidst the storm. I want to ask you, if you're following Jesus, you're going to get to the place where you can have peace amidst the storm. But it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to develop, just like you're not going to bench 315 the first time you walk into the gym. But I want to challenge you, young people, begin to handle your problems head on through prayer, through help from others. Don't run from your problems. Now, I took a period of 7 years off from life, if you will, right? In rebellion against God. There was as I said many times, there's 4 years followed immediately by another 3-year period. Do you realize when I started following God again, he picked right up with the same things he was trying to teach me 7 years ago? You see, my temptation, my tendency with problems can't come was to run. That's why I moved out of my house for the second time when I was 17. Never looked back. I don't like what's going down. I'm out of here. I would rather live on my own. I want to do what I want my freedom. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I would just run from scenario to scenario to scenario. So guess what happens? The Lord humbles me, and I find myself at age 23 living back with my parents. I had to teach myself how to type so I can get a real job. And I start in education. Now, what was the temptation? Education. For those who just finished a semester of college, was it easy? Did you ever want to quit? You never wanted to quit? You're not taking enough credits. How many credits are you taking? 16? It's a full load. Dag, B. Okay. And I'm getting to that point. Can I give you a high five from across the room? Awesome. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, actually. But school is hard. And it was really important for me in my life to not run. Just to hang in there, to do it, to take the stress, take the pressure, work through it, and don't quit. Don't run away like I used to do. And the Lord used that time of testing where I wanted to quit on a regular basis, but didn't quit, to build me up, to build character in my life. Now, when we came back, my wife and I, to Gospel Life in 2013, I think end of the year, something like that, we were not well received. We were not well received at all. And it was quite shocking to my wife and I. Now, what was my default strategy to handle that? Run. Like, why did we just move 700 miles to help out a church when no one here wants us, obviously? What is my default? I'm going home. I'm out of here. Why am I here again? Why did I put my whole life on hold and come back? Right? What did I want to do? Run. What didn't I do? The one thing I knew is I can't run. Great. There was a period of time where, like, on a daily basis, I get a phone call. Yeah, so-and-so's slandering you. So-and-so's gossiping about you. So-and-so's saying this negative thing about you. Oh, you know when you tried to help that person out? Yeah, they said all these negative things why you're a terrible person. And my wife, you think when someone attacks me, she takes it 10 times harder than I do. And people are starting to attack my wife. Now, you want to get me upset? Mess with my wife. Mess with her. Go ahead. So that was really challenging, right? To stay in the spirit when I wanted to get in the flesh and just like, okay, you think you have the freedom to tell everybody what you really think? Let me have a chance to tell everybody what I really think. But is that a godly response? If I responded that way to that trial, guess what? I'm not mirroring Jesus, I'm mirroring my opponent. I'm mirroring my enemy. Now, does that make a difference in the world? Am I Am I qualified to be in spiritual leadership if I imitate all the people's bad behavior out there? Is that the kind of pastor you want? Loses his temper all the time? Runs from problems all the time? Is that someone you can respect? I tell you what, my wife couldn't respect that. So here's the thing, God was using I look back, would I trade those experiences? God was using those to build character in my life. Now, for you, it may be different. But I guarantee you, problems are already here, or they're coming soon, and what really matters, young people, is how you handle them. Can I tell you this? Most likely, they're not as bad as you think, but some of them are going to be as bad as we think, and maybe worse. But can I promise you this? God is not going to bring you through anything in life that He won't give you the strength and the power, the grace, and the peace to handle. You ever feel overwhelmed? Like, hey, this is beyond me. You know what? I had a man this morning who was honest with me. He said, you know what? Some things happened this week, and I found out some news, and I wanted to go straight back to the bottle. And I wanted to get wasted. Did he get wasted? No, he didn't. Instead of getting wasted like he used to do back in the day, he opened up the scripture. Now, is that a beautiful thing? It's a victory. And life is a war, and you got battles that come along. You may win a battle, but don't get arrogant because the next battle's coming. But guess what? That man made the right choice, and he grew in godliness. He grew in character. And guess what? When that same temptation comes down the road, you think it's going to be easier for him? He's plotting a new course in life. Because what happens is we set these patterns of behavior in our life, and they become our default responses. So when you've been going one direction your whole life, and you have your certain coping mechanisms, and all of a sudden you want to turn and follow Jesus, that transition is not going to be easy. Can I give you an example I gave this morning? And if you're here this morning, I'm sorry to be redundant, but here it is. This term I hear thrown out a lot, narcissist. You guys know what a narcissist is? Narcissist is someone who loves self. Loves self. That's a narcissist. So the idea is this. Oh, you're telling a story, and they stop and interrupt you. He's like, oh, that reminds me of a story about me and how awesome I am. Let me tell you all about it. Forget your story. Right? Now, how is a narcissist created? That's what I want to know. People use the word narcissist a lot, but they never talk about how it happens, why it is that someone would be coming off. Because when you're a baby, you need right? It is all about the baby. The baby can't provide for themselves. So it is said that from people, credible people, who observe patterns of human behavior, that if those needs weren't met from 0 to 6 months especially, that person, if they're neglected as little babies, right? They're not held, they're not comforted, they're not fed, they're not given a nice place to rest, their needs aren't met, it is said that person will spend the rest of their life seeking to have those needs met. Not understanding why, but that's why it's always about them. Now, not everybody responds to those trials the same ways. But here's the thing. If you've been a narcissist for all those years and you haven't realized that you're just trying to seek to have needs met that weren't met as a child, and you haven't interpreted or self-interpreted this pattern of behavior, do you think you're going to stop being a narcissist overnight? See, we like to. When I was a kid, we heard these stories. The stories that were really popular in church were these. So-and-so trusted in Jesus, and miraculously they weren't an alcoholic anymore. Isn't it amazing? This person had this struggle, this sexual temptation. He trusted in Jesus and never had it again. Isn't that amazing? What? And you know what I find in life, now that I'm going to be 40, that's the exception. It does happen from time to time, and that is the exception, not the rule. Because guess what? Why doesn't God, as soon as you trust in Jesus, zap, take all your problems away? Yeah. You would be a weak, lethargic, mediocre Christian. Every time a problem would come, you're like, all right, genie in the bottle, Jesus, come on, take it away. I want to get comfy. I'm not comfortable, Jesus. Right? And is that a beautiful person or is that a selfish person? Here's what I'm telling you, young people. God has a purpose and a plan for the trials, the suffering in your life. This is why the Christian life is not even possible without suffering. But it's a matter of how you interpret the suffering. Are you going to suffer well and have character developed? Or are you going to suffer poorly and carry on that cycle of behavior that you learned from your ancestors? Which leads me to my final point. 1 Peter chapter 1. For you know that, verse 18, for you know that God paid a ransom to save you from the empty life you inherited from your ancestors. We read earlier in verses 1 and 2 that you were chosen before the foundation of the world to be holy. And it was told later in the book that God, Jesus, is the guardian of your soul. Don't think that God isn't intimately aware and involved in your life. No one think that. No one go home thinking God doesn't care, is not involved. I have problems and He doesn't help me. He is intimately aware and involved in all the things going on in your life. He's the guardian of your soul. He chose you, and guess what? He loved you so much, He got up on a cross and died for you so that you could be redeemed. And the idea of a ransom is a purchase. He purchased you. He rescued you from the kingdom of darkness and translated you into the kingdom of light. Now, He did that at great personal cost to Himself. So don't think you're not valuable. Don't think you're you know what? He says He doesn't show partiality to anybody. We read in Peter that God doesn't have any favorites. Oh, Timothy's a pastor. God must love him more. Not true. God cares about all of us. But here's the thing. Some of you, the temptation in life is to imitate the behavior that you were exposed to growing up. Okay? But what does Peter say in verse 18? He paid a ransom to save you from the empty life you inherited from your ancestors. Now, that's what Portia was referring to. Portia's like, I don't want to go that way. Right, Portia? Am I right? Is that what you were saying? Young people, can I say this? If you had an upbringing, and it was not the best upbringing, I'm not trying to throw your parents under the bus, okay? I'm not. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to be objective. But if you look at your upbringing, whether your mom or your dad or both, I don't know, and you say, I don't want to go in that same direction. Now, don't raise your hands right now, but is there anybody here that would say that? I look at mom, or I look at dad, or I look at both, and I don't want to go in that direction. I don't want to be in that same situation when I'm their age now. That's probably true for a lot of us. And in fact, in Michigan culture especially, it's been my experience that that's the norm. There's a lot of that going on. I'm not trying to be mean, but that's been my observation just looking out at the world in Michigan. Can I tell you that the primary thing that's going to separate you from those patterns of behavior you don't want to imitate is how you handle your problems. See, statistically, the chance of you turning into your folks is like 90+%. And what I've seen with young people is this. They start out and they get all this energy. Yes, I hate that. I hate what I came from. I don't want to be like that. And they start out and they're going really well. But then they get distracted. Maybe they lose some momentum. And they stop thinking about that. And they stop thinking about where they're going. And next thing you know, they kind of take a rest and a pause. And they slip back into the old way. Because it's so ingrained into their brains. Okay? Now, this is tragic for me to watch. I hate it. I hate it. So one of the things is, as you go through life, you got to develop the character and the godliness, the endurance, so that when these trials come, you don't turn back. Because it's when the trials come that you're going to be most tempted to go that old way that you learned from your ancestors. You see? So here I'm going to say this in closing. Those trials, the hard things in life is going to tempt you. Anytime you hit a major trial, you're going to be at a crossroads. And the broad path is going to look like going back to your old way of life that you learned from your upbringing. But there is a narrow path that will separate you from your family tree, and that is to suffer well. The way that Peter describes in 1 Peter. And I would challenge you this week to say, how do I suffer well? Read it for yourself this week, young people. Read 1 Peter, and then read 2 Peter. And if you have the YouVersion app, look up the Message version, okay? And you go to the bottom of the app, and there's a little speaker icon. Hit that speaker icon and hit play, and just listen to 1 and 2 Peter in the Message version. All right? I love it. And find out what it means to suffer well. That's the question you want to answer. How do I suffer well? Because those trials, when they come, is going to reveal your character. And your character is who you really are. And when you think about it, the last few times, if I haven't responded well to the trials and struggles in life, look how you've responded, okay? Look at it. And then compare and contrast, does it look like what was modeled for me growing up? Does it? And you say, well, I didn't even know my real parents. What do you know about them? Does it look similar? Okay? Sometimes we will follow in those patterns exactly, and sometimes we'll go to the extreme, the other direction. So if your dad, let's say, was let's just say generically absent, right? He wasn't around much. That's true for a lot of young people I've met. Your dad wasn't around much, wasn't a provider. The temptation can be either to be distant with your own kids, not be a good provider, or to go the other direction and be a super overachiever and all you do is work. In either scenario, your kids aren't getting the dad they need, are they? So you want to suffer well. And if you begin to intentionally think through how you respond to problems at this age, I guarantee you that is your best chance of escaping the patterns of behavior established for you by your ancestors. Jesus ransomed you so you don't have to go that way. And he's telling us wisdom in 1 Peter so we can chart a new course, chart a new path. Do you guys realize what you are capable of if you will get this? I would love to see this many young people, when by the time they're my age, have more character than I have now. Do you think that'll be a strong, powerful church making a difference in the community? Imagine you guys have more character at age 40 than I have now, and you're using all your resources to show people what God is like. Together as a team, not in isolation, but together as a team. Hooking it up, helping each other out. You think that would be a bright, shining light to our city and our community? Do you think that would stand in stark contrast to the darkness people are used to? When you got a struggle, you got 20 people you can go to who are really close, and you can bare your heart, and they will pray for you, and they will encourage you, and they will give you counsel, and they will give you wisdom, and you've hit your own trials, and you've responded well, so that when someone else is struggling, you can literally go to them, and you give them counsel, and you pray for them, and you're just there with them, and you help them. You're just like, I got this. I know how to handle this. I've been there. Last thing I want to give you tonight. Some of you are, when trials come, they're not going to be yours. They're going to be somebody else's. I want to teach you one sentence, and I'm going to let you off with this, okay? Let's say you're an adult, you have kids, and a friend of yours goes home and they find that their teenage daughter hung themselves, and they found them hanging in their own closet. And I just got real, didn't it? Now this happens, okay? I'm just trying to give you a real life scenario. And your temptation may be to say, I know what you're going through. My dog just died. Now I only say this because this happened last week. A person says to a person who just lost their child, I know what you're going through, my dog just died. Now, does that strike you as something wise to say at the time? Now, here's what, if you don't know what to say, it's better to say nothing. But here's the sentence that will save you if you are struggling with what to say. Here it is. Ready? Because you may find yourself in a time when you're called upon to give comfort to someone and you have no idea what to say. Here's what you say. Ready? I can't imagine what you're going through right now. That's it. I cannot imagine what you're going through right now. And the rest of it, put your arm around them and just stand there with them and cry with them. I'm here for you, though. I can't imagine what you're going through right now, but I'm here for you. And hug them and shut up. All right? Young people, my hope for you is that you grow in character, that you grow in godliness, that you guys live a beautiful life that is amazing, that looks a lot like Jesus. And I will rejoice to see that. Let's pray. Father, thank you for these young people. Lord, thank you that they're so attentive. Thank you that they're intelligent and they think through things. And Lord, thank you that they're transparent. And Lord, we don't know what the future holds, but what we can all be assured of, each and every one of us, is that trials are going to come. And Lord, we realize that's because of your sovereign will. Lord, you are in control of all things, Lord, and you allow these things because of your grace, because you want to develop character in us. Lord, we realize that in the end, you make all things new. In the end, there's a new heaven and a new earth with no curse, with no death, with no pain, with no suffering, sickness. Lord, you make all things new. But Lord, in the meantime, you have your sovereign purpose. Lord, I pray it would play out in these young people's lives in a way that would develop beautiful character within them. Lord, illuminate their minds to how they're handling their problems. Lord, give them the courage to respond well. Lord, I pray that each and every one of these young people here would be sensitive enough to know when their brother or sister is struggling, that they can come alongside of them and encourage them. Just to be a blessing, Lord, to weep with those who weep, to rejoice with those who rejoice. Lord, use the young people here in this room to show Metro Detroit what you're really like in a beautiful and powerful way. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.